Reimagining Success, episode 169. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Something that comes up quite a bit with clients is the idea of faking it till I make it. It's that confidence that we're lacking, and it's the, I suppose, well-meaning advice that we get that is all about, okay, pretend that it's fine, pretend you can do it, and then, that will come, I guess, is the idea. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea of faking it. So part of that is my good girl heritage. I've always hated getting caught out. I don't want to get into trouble. It feels like a lie, really, doesn't it? It feels like I'm pretending that I can do something, that I am something, that I'm doing something that I'm not. And I don't like that idea. And it just feels very inauthentic. Even if you don't have my discomfort, my ethics or morals, you might also see that there's no point in faking it in some areas. So telling clients you can do something that you can't, whether it's a core skill or competence or a problem that you say that you can solve and you actually can't, what's the point of that? You actually can't fake that. Yes, you can fake confidence, let's say, but you can't fake competence or knowledge, right? You can't say, yeah, I'm an expert on this, and then you can't answer any questions on it because you've never heard about it. You know nothing about it. So, there's no point actually in faking a lot of the time. But in any case, I just don't love the idea, and maybe you're the same as me. Now, I have a slightly different take on this as a result. And I have talked about this certainly to my clients before, and that's around projecting yourself into the future and asking yourself, who would I need to be in order to be able to do this? What if I've already achieved my goal? How would I be behaving then? So one way to look at it is to look at external role models. Wow, they're behaving this way, this is what they're doing, and they're getting the results I want. But the other is, and I love this idea, to distance yourself, detach yourself a little bit and project yourself into the future. So future Anna, who has a load of press coverage, who's written 10 books, whatever that vision is, would do X, Y, Z. They would be writing every day. They would be contacting media outlets. They'd be maintaining, nurturing relationships with journalists and so on. Once you've identified how that future you would be behaving, then you can act as if you are already there. So that's about changing your behaviors. It's not about lying to anybody else, right? It's, in a way, you could say it's lying to yourself, but it's not. You're just taking on board, you're taking elements of the future you, just fast forwarding a little bit. And as you change your behaviors, that then, of course, changes your results, which is a really lovely, positive reinforcement, virtuous cycle of, I'm actually changing my behavior, therefore I'm going to get more results, therefore I'm faking it, as it were, less and less as I move forwards. So it's not about faking it, it's actually thinking ahead. Okay, if I were that person, if I did have that competence, that skill, that confidence, again, is probably more likely. If I was already in that place, what would I be doing to maintain that? Again, the fitness example always comes to mind. It's something I think we can all relate to. If I were someone who was sporty, fit, healthy, and as an aside, I love a good aside, when I was younger, when I was little, I used to win all the 100-meter sprints at school. And I loved sport as many young kids do. We're always running around and always active. I won the sports cup when I left primary school. I won a netball badge, all sorts of things, right? Then I guess puberty happened, secondary school. I still played a bit of tennis, played a bit of netball, but I skipped a year, so not very well. Did some cheerleading and so on. And ultimately, I told myself the story, perhaps subconsciously, that I'm not a sporty person. I'm not that active, maybe a little bit chubby, a little bit lazy, whatever. And, related to that, I guess a lot of us will say, oh, I'm not a runner. And I hear that from people again. In fact, my sister said that, if she ever listens to this. My sister said that she's not a runner. And then, behold, she's become more of a runner almost than I have now over the last few years. And that's those little steps that we're always talking about as well. But that story I was telling myself, that's, true to some extent. But of course, then if I project myself, okay, what would a person who was sporty, who was active, the kind of person who would stay active on holiday and over Christmas and so on, and not go to extremes, or at least wouldn't just be, I guess, lazy, if that's the sort of term I was thinking of my story, then okay, that person would be maybe working with a personal trainer. They'd be keeping a diary. They'd be, working out X number of times a week. They would bring their running shoes on a holiday or a week, and they wouldn't just give up, etc., etc. So again, it's not faking. I'm not pretending to be a sporty person. I'm just changing my behaviors, taking action, going for a run. A runner would be going for a run, right, regularly. And then before you know it, boom, you're actually a runner. So again, it's not about lying, it's not about faking it. You're projecting yourself into the future, asking yourself, who would you need to be in order to be able to do this? And what would you be doing if you were that person? Changing your behaviors. A few more business-focused examples come to mind. One is, if you remember Pete Can, who was on a few months ago, I shared his interview on escaping the 9 to 5. He was in the hospitality industry as of course, COVID hit quite badly, and is now the laughter man. And the idea of laughter yoga is a little bit around this idea that I'm sure you've heard about. If you haven't heard of this idea, is that if you start smiling, and in this case, if you laugh, your body can't actually tell the difference. And before you know it, you will be genuinely smiling, genuinely laughing. And that's that positive reinforcement. It's such a physical thing. The other one that I remember hearing about years ago on the TED Talk was the power pose, right? And I realise now I'm just sitting here slouching while I'm talking to you. I'd like to get a standing desk. But, if I raise my shoulders, arms back, hands on hips, suddenly I feel very powerful. And it's, again, that reinforcement. Okay, I wasn't feeling very powerful. Now I feel great. I feel energized. Maybe you hear a difference in my voice. So laughter, yoga, power pose. Again, an even more business-focused one is networking. Ugh, I hate networking. If I go, and I don't go to events I haven't been in years, I haven't even tried, but if I go to an event, I'm there in the corner, who do I talk to? I feel awkward. Okay, but if I were an amazing networker, if I were the life and soul of the party, how would I be behaving? Now, I'm not going to go out in the middle of the room in a red dress and start singing, possibly, certainly not at a corporate event, but that networking guru, that person who's amazing at connecting with people, would be smiling. They'd have open body language. They'd say hello. They'd make eye contact. And if I can try to embrace just a few of those behaviors, suddenly I'm probably going to get positive results. People will make eye contact back. They'll smile. They'll be just as nervous as me, and they'll be so grateful that someone's talking to them. We'll have a conversation. We'll have an incredible, connection, and who knows where that relationship will go. As ever, it's also about your motivation. So I think, are you wanting to fake it because you're trying to prove something? You're trying to, again, be good enough. You're trying to show them, I can do this and I'm better, and check out how successful I am in my new business or whatever? Are you trying to live up to other people's expectations? If you remember the 5 biggest regrets from Bronnie Ware, who was an Australian palliative care nurse who worked with people in the last weeks of their lives, the number 1 regret is I wish I had been true to myself and not live up to other people's expectations. So, that's not a great motivation. If your motivation rather is to change your behaviors to achieve a particular goal, that inner intrinsic motivation, that's a very different thing. And now one other aspect to this, so this is acting as if you're already there. Another aspect, if you remember a few weeks ago, I talked about this idea of having different characters. So there's the hippie me, there's the businesswoman me, there's the whatever else me, right? There's the different parts of my personality, a little bit of split personality. There are different parts of me, different characters that need to show up in different ways depending on the role in my life. So as a mother, I need to behave in a different way probably than as a partner. A nurturing, perhaps a little bit bossy, leading mother isn't the same thing in my case as being, a loving, respectful, collaborative, that's not the best romantic word, but you know what I mean, partner. As a coach, in fact, I need to be different again. I shouldn't be going around coaching my friends and partner and family and so on, right? So as a professional coach, that's another arena. As a mentor, because those are 2 different hats, my thesis that I wrote in my coaching training was all about blended coaching and consulting. Consulting is a very different thing to coaching. They're 2 skills that absolutely can and could and should be blended. But, again, they require different hats. when I'm managing a team, again, I'm taking on more of a leadership role, coaching role perhaps, sister, daughter, friend, etc. Interestingly, even though I've been talking about this for years, I've just read Todd Herman's book, The Alter Ego Effect, and he talks about exactly this, and particular athletes coming from sort of the sports arena, having a persona on the field, and he talks about the different playing fields in our life, as it were, coming from that sports arena. So yes, okay, sports, but again, in this case, your family arena, perhaps your professional arena, there are different arenas. And you need to show up in a different way. The examples he gives, and I encourage you to read the book, it's an interesting one, is, if you're a professional athlete, you might be a very fair, collaborative person, but that person can't show up on the tennis court, let's say. You need to be in it to win. Now, you don't need to be an arse about it, but you need to, you need to not go, oh, it needs to be fair. I'm winning by too much. I better slow myself down. You need to be competitive. You need to be the best you can be and focus on your game. So that's a different person. If I'm showing up again as a coach who's completely present, who's here, non-judgmental, listening, supporting completely unconditionally, that is what I need to be as a coach, and I strive to be that. I probably can't be, and maybe don't even want to be that as a mother, as a partner. I need to be more real, more completely myself, right, with other people who know me better, who love me, who aren't paying me to be that person. So it's thinking again about who do I want to be, who do I need to be as a mother, and then if there is someone in your life who is a role model in that area, who maybe it's your own parent or someone else, a friend, how can I be more like that person? It's not trying to copy someone, but it's being inspired by others and trying to emulate some of their behaviors again. So again, I don't love the idea of faking it till you make it. I like the idea of projecting myself into the future, asking who would I need to be, and then acting as if I'm already that person, changing my behaviors. And then briefly there at the end, I talked about this idea of the different characters, perhaps the alter ego, the Clark Kent, Superman kind of personas required in the journalism field versus in the saving the world field. So you can really think about, and in fact, Todd Herman talks about how you can create that alter ego for a specific arena. Bring it back to the context here. If you're wanting to achieve certain goals in business, if I'm not good at sales, I'm just not this, that, and the other, I procrastinate, I'm a perfectionist, etc. That's not a helpful story you're telling yourself. Can you create a persona? Again, it's not about pretending, it's not being inauthentic, it's taking your best bits, it's learning, it's emulating someone else, projecting yourself into that future you, and then already accelerating that process and bringing those elements back to change your behaviors so that you ultimately become that person who you're hoping to be, who you're inspired by. Hope you found that interesting. Look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
Are you ready to build and scale your business to achieve everything you dreamed of when you started without sacrificing your personal life and your sanity to do so? The truth is that escaping the 9-to-5 is not just about saying, I quit to your boss, or putting up a website and ordering a set of business cards. A sustainable escape requires you to design and build a viable business that consistently brings in income and that fits in around the other priorities in your life. Join us in the Outsiders Business Accelerator to get ongoing coaching, training, and mentoring to help you create a long-term brand and business that works for you. Read more and apply at onestepoutside.com/accelerate. That's onestepoutside.com/accelerate.